Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever wondered if faith is something you're just born with, or if it's something you can actually build? Well, today we're breaking down how to construct real, active faith. And I'm not talking about some distant, abstract goal, but a practical skill you can start using the very moment this explainer is over. For so many of us, faith feels like this really complex puzzle, right? It seems so abstract, something that's hard to grasp or hold on to with all the noise and chaos of our daily lives. We kind of think we have to go somewhere special or, achieve something big to finally find it. But what if faith isn't something you find at all? What if it's something you build, moment by moment, with every small choice you make? What if it's got nothing to do with the future and everything to do with what's happening right now? Okay, let's really dive into this. So, first things first, we've got to redefine what we even mean by faith. It's not about these grand gestures or having all the answers. Nope, it's something much, much more immediate. The source material suggests that true, active faith is simply about responding to the present. The most powerful spiritual question you can ask yourself is this: what does this moment need from me? If someone is speaking to you, your very first act of faith is just to truly, deeply listen. That's it. That's the start. Now, this isn't just a passive belief. It's what's called yaqeen, and that's a deep, unshakable certainty. But here's the brilliant part. It's a certainty you don't just find. You forge it. You actually build it yourself, with every single small, conscious action you take. The source uses this incredible metaphor. Think of your mind as this dense, chaotic jungle, right? Thoughts, worries, distractions, they're all growing wild in there. Faith, then, is the act of consciously clearing just one small space in that jungle, laying down a little mat of focus, and building a foundation of peace right then and there. So, how do we start clearing that space? How do we do it? Well, the process is this simple, three-step cycle you can use in any conversation with anyone. It's a practical blueprint for building that yaqeen. Let's break it down. All right, step one, listen attentively. This is the absolute foundation of connection, and it's the simplest but maybe the most profound act of faith there is. Okay, look at this slide. The contrast here is everything. On the left, that's our default mode, isn't it? Half listening, phone in hand, our mind already jumping ahead to what we're going to say next. But on the right, that's the act of faith. It's removing all the obstacles, your phone, your own thoughts, and offering your complete 100% attention. It's about trying to see the world just for a second through their eyes. Step two, inquire with curiosity. So now that you're truly listening, it's time to understand what's really going on beneath the surface. And this has to be about genuine curiosity. This isn't about asking questions to catch them out or to challenge their story. It's about completely shifting your goal from judging to just assessing. Your only job in this moment is to try and understand the emotional truth of what they're going through. So, you start listening for the core emotion. Are they trying to tell you they're sad or angry, maybe frustrated? When you focus on just trying to identify their emotional state, it automatically pulls you away from judgment and moves you towards connection, towards empathy. And that brings us to step three, validate with empathy. This is where you really lock in that connection, using one of the most powerful and misunderstood tools for building trust. Think about this classic scenario. You hear it all the time. A wife comes to her husband to share a problem, and he immediately jumps into solution mode. But the real frustration for her isn't the problem itself. It's that feeling of he just doesn't get it. The need in that moment isn't for a fix. It's for understanding. It's the feeling of not being heard that causes the real pain. So here is the absolute crucial point. Validation is not agreement. Let me say that again. You do not have to agree with what they did or what they think. It is a simple, powerful act of acknowledging that their emotional response makes sense from their point of view. It just says, I see you, and what you are feeling is valid. And this just brilliantly shows the difference. That left column, it's all about judging or solving. But the one on the right, that's about connecting. Instead of telling someone how they should feel, you just reflect their feeling back to them. That sounds really frustrating. No fixes, no advice, just presence. That is validation. Okay, so we've covered the how of building this active faith, but what about the why? Where does the real strength, the real power of this thing come from?
We're taught to believe that we need all these external things to feel secure and capable, right? We need money in the bank, fancy degrees on the wall, a respectable title next to our name.
But the source makes a pretty radical claim here. It says your true, unshakable power lies in two things you already have: your niyat, which is your sincere intention, and your ikhtiyar, your own autonomy, your freedom to choose. See, relying on money is just faith in money. Relying on your job is faith in your job. This is about having faith in the process itself. So the process, the actual engine of active faith, is this. First, get crystal clear on what your real need is in any situation. Second, present that need with a sincere, pure intention. And third, you trust. You trust that a path will be made for you.
Look, this isn't just some nice theory. Here's how you can take your very first step right now. Remember that chaotic jungle in your mind? You don't have to clear the whole thing at once. Your entire journey of faith can start by simply choosing to lay down that one small mat of focus in the very next conversation you have.
And that is the real takeaway here. This is not a hypothetical exercise. Who will be the first person you practice this simple 3-step process on? Your spouse? Your kid? A coworker? Your answer to that question, that's where your active faith journey truly begins. This explainer was based on a session by Sobi and Noreen. A few ideas might differ from the original material since this is an AI-assisted production by Sobia. For counseling sessions and studies, please feel free to use the contact information on your screen. You can leave questions below or write to the email provided. Thank you so much for watching.